Well, as I was just saying a little while ago, a monk of our order, the one who founded our particular order of monks, Swami Vivekananda, he came to this country in 1893. He was the first Hindu monk to come to the West, to the United States, and teach about Hinduism. Among the religions in India, Buddhism is the one which is more well known in the West, and it's always been missionary. That means it's gone out and spread itself. But Hinduism has mostly been ethnic, so it has stayed within the boundaries of India mostly. But all of that changed with Vivekananda. In fact, recently, you must have heard of the World Yoga Day, which is I think the summer equinox, 22nd June, yeah. So that's now been declared by the United Nations as the World Yoga Day. And the day it happened, a couple of 3 years ago, there was actually an article in Wall Street Journal about the man who started it all, and that was Swami Vivekananda. I said, most people don't know about it, more than 100 years ago. So, and it was the New Yorkers who caught him first, that you come to our city and teach. So he started the Vedanta Society here in 1894, and he was the first of a series of teachers from the East, which has not stopped even till today. There are yogis and meditation masters and lamas and all sorts of teachers who have been, and different traditions. Hinduism is so vast and varied. So you have Tantra teachers coming, teachers of Bhakti, like the Hare Krishna people. They are also very well known. Many people look at me and say, Hare Krishna. I'm not from that tradition, but that's one tradition in Hinduism. The most ancient tradition we have in Hinduism is the one I represent, Vedanta. You may have heard of the Vedas, which are the holy books of the Hindus. In the Vedas, towards the end of these texts, you find texts called the Upanishads. So the system based on the Upanishads is Vedanta. Literally, it means the end of the Vedas, by which you mean the highest teachings, the final teachings of the Vedas. So the system is based on that, the Upanishads. That's why it's called Vedanta, literally end or the final teachings of the Veda. And that has been the foundation, the philosophical and spiritual foundation of most of Hinduism. Other systems evolved later on. Vivekananda primarily taught that, and that's our main, our central teaching, you might say, in our order. In India, our order is very well known. It's called the Ramakrishna Mission. If you Google it, it's big there. I mean, for the last more than 100 years, it's been there. But the tradition of monasticism I belong to, it goes back to at least 1400 years ago, to Shankaracharya, who was the major teacher of Vedanta. In Vedanta, we have many schools. So the school which I belong to is the non-dualist school. It's called Advaita Vedanta. It's like full revelation, full disclosure. But what you say in here, full disclosure, where I'm coming from. So it's non-dual Vedanta. So what we'll be talking about is a particular approach to spirituality. But it's very different from religion. I'm not here to preach religion. It's nothing. It doesn't have anything to do with believing in something. It's very impersonal. It doesn't require anybody to be to believe or be a Hindu or anything like that. It has absolutely nothing to do with it. It's impersonal. It's experience-based. It's insight-based. In fact, a more modern way of putting what I talk about would be the yoga of insight. Insight into what we are, the reality about ourselves. Well, I'm already getting into my talk. Is there anything that you would like to ask before we start? I'll talk for about maybe 30 to 35, 40 minutes. 30 minutes, and then we go into Q&A. Anything that you would like to comment on or say anything before we start? Or should I just go into it? Okay, I'll go into it. I'll start with a chant, and I'll try to limit the Sanskrit to that. So all the ancient texts are in Sanskrit, but they're easily translatable into English. So it's customary.
No one's allergic to Sanskrit. Any Sanskrit problems? Everybody can handle it.
I don't know. When I was teaching in Hollywood a couple of years back, there was this gentleman who would sit at the back, and we devised a system. When the Sanskrit would get too much for him, he would raise a hand. That meant too much Sanskrit. Get back to English. I would always flag it. A little bit of Sanskrit here, but we can do without most of it. But feel free to interrupt me at any time. Ask a question about what I'm saying. All right, it's customary to start with a chant, so I'll start with a chant. Om Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityurma Amritam Gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om, lead us from the unreal to the real. Lead us from darkness unto light. Lead us from death to immortality. Om, peace, peace, peace. Well, as I was just saying, this whole system is based on the Upanishads. And these Upanishads are many in number, but primarily 10 which we draw upon. These texts go back to, they cannot be precisely dated, but 3,000 to 4,000 years at least, even more maybe. Luckily, there are 108 Upanishads which are available to us, but we primarily study 10 of them. Biggest of them could be a sizable book in Sanskrit original. The smallest of them would fit in less than a page. Luckily, all of them can be condensed into one sentence. If you would like to know what the Upanishads basically say, they are expressed in what are called in the Upanishads great sentences. Sanskrit Mahavakya, great sentence, or profound sentences. They condense the entire teaching of the Upanishads. And the teaching is this: you are the absolute, the ultimate reality which we are seeking. The whole point and purpose of this game of life, of this universe, that thou art. In fact, that's a direct translation of an Upanishadic saying, Tat Tvamasi. It means that thou art. Your reality is the reality of the universe. What might be called God in religion is basically our own inner reality. And the whole point of these teachings is, if you recognize that reality, if you experience it, then that would solve all your problems. In fact, you would ask, what is the purpose of the Upanishads, of Vedanta? The purpose is, it can be put in two ways. One is the direct way, which would appeal to people today, say in Manhattan, even to thousands of years after they said this. It is to overcome suffering and attain bliss. Overcoming suffering and attainment of profound, lasting happiness. That's the point of this entire exercise. In fact, and that's the whole point of spirituality in India. It's not just Vedanta, all the systems aim at this. In fact, if you know the story of the Buddha set out to find out if there is a way out of suffering. That was the quest of the Buddha. It's the same quest. The insight that the Upanishads, that the Vedanta offers is, if you know yourself, then you transcend suffering. What is this yourself that Vedanta speaks about? The Upanishads say that we are not what we think we are. We think that we are these limited creatures of flesh and blood with a mind. That's the most that we can think of. That we are a person, this person and this person. We don't even question this. The Upanishads say that if you would look inwards, if you would inquire inwards, then you would find an extraordinary reality which is present here, an immortal spirit. Spirit is, they have a very precise meaning for it. They're not mysterious at all. Spirit, God, these are sometimes vague terms. But as we shall see today, what the Upanishads talk about, what Vedanta teaches, is very direct. I mean, there is no way of not understanding. There's no vague or mysterious language. In fact, it's helpful to compare different approaches to spirituality. The most common approach which you find mostly in religion is what Vedanta would call the devotional aspect, the bhakti approach, where you're supposed to start with faith. That there is a God and you believe in a God and you surrender to this God and you follow a certain way of life in the hope that one day we end up, meeting God, going to heaven. I saw a big billboard, on the road. It's there. After death, you will meet God. Call 815 for the truth and so on and so forth. But you see, God is distanced from you. Whatever God is, it's distanced from you by time. Look at the language. After death, which means not now. Not right here, right now at 6:45 in Manhattan. Not now. After death. Another similar billboard. It says, heaven is a place. And it says again, I call 815. I really should call them 815. But that's traditional religion for you. It's not just in Christianity or Judaism. You have entire traditions in Hinduism which are like that. They're all true. Vedanta, one unique characteristic of Vedanta, which is very useful, I think, and very needed for this world, is that it considers all religion to be true. It does not lay exclusive claim on the truth. At the core of every religion, we believe, is the same teaching, but in different language, different stories, different practices, different approaches, which makes the whole thing richer. Swami Vivekananda, our founder, he would say that the more religions, the better. He said, I believe that every human being should have his own religion. I mean, there should be 7 billion religions here, and that would be better than having only one religion. But as a matter of fact, there is, it's an aside what I'm talking right now. All of us, whatever religious or spiritual tradition we belong to, we do cherry pick a little bit. We do take in what we believe in, what we understand, and what suits us, and we adapt it to us. So even in the same religion, maybe in the narrowest church, 2 different members of the congregation wouldn't understand it in the same way. Anyway, Vedanta believes that at the core of all spiritual traditions, there is this truth. One approach is the devotional approach. But the problem with the devotional approach is it depends heavily on faith. So you believe in this and you're separated from that ultimate reality, God, heaven, or whatever you call it, by time, after death, by space, not here, in heaven. Heaven, look at the language. Heaven is a place. In contrast to that, when Vivekananda came here, he presented a second approach, not the Vedanta approach I'm talking about, but a second approach. It's good to contrast these approaches, then you understand what Vedanta is really about. A second approach which Vivekananda presented here and which really appealed to people in this country. He said it's not believing. Religion is not believing in something. Religion is realization. Religion is experience. If there is a God, I must see this God. If I'm an immortal soul, I must know it. I must feel it, realize it. So he taught the path of what is today called Patanjali Yoga. Yoga has become a very umbrella term now. It includes a lot of different practices. But what he taught here, he called it Raja Yoga. In fact, his book Raja Yoga was published from New York. It was his first book to be published. The central approach in that path, this is the second path I'm talking about. Central approach in that path is you meditate, you'll be shown techniques of meditation, and at the end of which, when you practice this, you will have these extraordinary experiences which will prove to you the truth of spiritual life. That you are not the body and mind, that you are an existence apart from the body and mind, and so on. So a proof, what is called mystical experiences. It's not just for mystics of the church, but it's for everybody. And Vivekananda taught that. Now, if religion is something that you can experience, in fact, that's how Vivekananda became a monk. He would go to his master, Ramakrishna. Sri Ramakrishna was a very well-known spiritual master in India and the West nowadays. He went to his own master with the question, have you seen God? Look at the question, have you seen God? That means, have you experienced God? Not, have you read about Him? Do you believe in it? No. Have you seen God? So the yoga path, the path of Patanjali Yoga, promises experience. But there is a big but here also. The but here is, the problem here is, the experience they talk about is an extraordinary experience. It's not something that we have right now. You meditate, it might take years of hard work inner work until you come to that experience. So until that time, you are in the same boat, like a person who's believing in God, you're also trying to experience God. In contrast to that is the third approach, which I'm going to talk about today. Not one based on belief. You don't have to believe in something, take something for granted, and wait till after death you go to that place. No. You don't even have to take a series of complicated meditation exercises which will finally give you certain experiences. Not even that. And we'll do it today. What we will do today is this is called the path of knowledge or path of non-dual Vedanta. It's available right now, right here. And you are that reality, according to Vedanta, that thou art. So, using our day-to-day experiences, using all that we have right now, can we get an experience of that? Can we get an insight into this spiritual reality that Vedanta speaks about, our own real self? Can we get that experience here and now, directly, continuously available? Not in a different place, not in a different time, not something that you have to wait for, not something that you have to go somewhere, not something other than you. It is you, yourself, right here, right now, an insight into our real nature. Can we do that? So, non-dual Vedanta presents a variety of approaches to gain that insight. Today I'll be speaking about one of these approaches. There's a vast literature, as I said, Upanishads, but after the Upanishads also many masters wrote many texts over the last 2,000-3,000 years, especially after Shankaracharya, who came 1400 years ago. After that, many teachers have written many of these texts. So one of these texts, I will use one verse from that text today to help us to go deep within ourselves into our own experience and see what these people are talking about. That this experience we have about ourselves, we have profoundly mistaken. This is just the surface of our being. The reality about ourselves, can we sense it? Can we intuit it? At least a glimpse of it today. So that's what we are going to do. This sets the background to what I'm going to talk about. I haven't started yet though. But it's very direct. The background is important. It's very direct and it's easy to grasp and easy to do. This text which I'm going to use now is in the non-dualist tradition. It's called the analysis of the seer and the seen. Drigdrishya Viveka in Sanskrit. The analysis of the seer and the seen. And I'm going to take only the first verse from it, from that Sanskrit text. It was written about 700 years ago by a master called Vidyaranya in the south of India. So that's what we're going to do now. As we go into this, what we're going to do is try to intuit that inner reality, which Vedanta speaks about. As we go into this, I would like you to hold on to and remember one operating principle, a very simple principle, commonsensical approach. What you see is different from you. The seer and the seen are two different things. It's as simple as I am seeing this piece of this cloth. This cloth is clearly different from me. The eyes see this cloth, and the eyes in the cloth are clearly different from each other. So, the seer and the seen are two different things. Just hold on to this principle. You understand what I'm saying in a very simple way. I mean, take it in a very naive, childlike way. Yeah, okay, I see something, it must be different from it. We'll start with this. The verse, I'll tell it to you in Sanskrit, and then we'll go into the English translation. The verse goes like this. Rupam drishyam lochanam drik tadrishyam driktu manasam drishyadhi vrittaya sakshi drigeva natu drishyate. What does this mean? There are 4 parts. Usually the Sanskrit verses, they have 4 quarters, 4 parts. And the whole process has 4 steps. Each quarter talks about one of these steps. So the first part, it starts in this way. The whole principle is it takes you from something simple, external, step by step to the reality within. 4 steps. First step, very simple. The eyes are the seer and the forms are the seen. Forms means whatever you see. So rupam literally means form. Literally it means color, but also extended to mean form. All that we see, physically see, they are forms. People and buildings and mats and the ceiling, all these are forms. These are seen, and the eyes are the seer. You might say, no, I am the seer with the eyes. Yes, that will come later. But take it in a very naive, step-by-step, childlike fashion. From the known to the unknown, as the saying goes. So, the eyes are the seer and the forms are seen. Immediately notice one thing. The eyes are different from what they see. Clearly, the forms are different. Those things are out there and the eyes are here. In fact, the only thing that the eyes cannot see, can you tell me what it is? What is it that the eyes cannot see? Themselves. Yes, you're right. You might say, no, that's not true. I can see my eyes in a mirror, but you can only see the reflection of your eyes in a mirror. The way I see something directly like this, I can't see my eyes like this. Even a picture or a selfie, it's just a picture. Even if you see, I can see myself and in the screen there. But even that's a picture. I can't see my eyes, directly. So the only thing that they cannot see are themselves. They can only see things which are different from themselves. So the first principle is the seer and the seen are different. The eyes, which are the seer, are clearly different from what they see. 1. Second thing, note that the same eyes perceive a variety of the scene. You see different colors, different shapes, people and animals and buildings and the sky and the trees, thousands of things which are seen, but all by the same pair of eyes. So in that sense, the conclusion is the seer is one. Not that we are one-eyed, but one organ of vision. Seer is one. The seen are many. The seer is one and the seen are many. The second point. The third point, which you notice immediately, the scene keeps changing. You saw the busy street outside. Before that, you saw the subway. Now you come in here and you're in here in class. And again, you will leave and you see so many different things. It keeps changing. But the seer, the eyes, relatively are unchanging. The same pair of eyes, relatively unchanging, see a variety of changing things. Very simple facts. You might feel like, yeah, get on with it. But it's important to hold on to these 3, and we'll see the point at the end of it. Seer and the seen are different. 1. The seer is one, the seen are many. 2. And the seer is unchanging. The seen are continuously changing. All throughout our lives are changing. Okay. This is stage 1. Let's go deeper. Take a step back. From the world being seen by the eyes, let's take a look. Let's experience the eyes. How do we experience the eyes? The eyes themselves become the seen within quotes now. Seen as in experienced. And what experiences your eyes? That my eyes are open, that my eyes are closed, that I need glasses, that there's something gotten into my eyes. All of this, how do I know? With the mind. Are you with me on this? One step back into yourself. It's the mind which recognizes what's happening to the eyes. The Sanskrit for that quarter is Tad drishyam drittu manasam. The eyes now become the seen and the mind becomes the seer. Immediately apply those 3 principles which we got, 3 observations which we got. Seer and the seen are different. Yes, you got it. They are different. The mind is clearly not the eyes. You can again physically see that the eyes are an organ of vision. The mind is something subtle inside. So the mind which sees the eye, sees within quotes, sees in the sense it knows that my eyes are open or closed or so on and so forth. So the mind is the seer and the eyes become the seen. What about the world? Still the seen. The eyes see the world, but the eyes are experienced by the mind. This is stage 2. And we clearly see, number one, the mind and the eyes are different. Seer and the seen are different. Second observation, the eyes themselves have different inputs. The eyes, the sense organs, not only the eyes, the skin and the nose and the sense of touch and smell and taste. All of these, they present a variety of different inputs. All of them are experienced by the same mind. The mind being one, the inputs of the sense organs are many. The seer is one, the seeing are many. Second observation, still holds true. Third, the seer is unchanging and the seeing are changing. Clear. Sometimes I thought my eyes were very good. Now I need glasses for my eyes. The condition of my other sense organs is also changing. The body is changing. All of that is understood by the same mind, relatively unchanging. Here you might say the mind changes continuously. True, but the mind changes into the mind. More thoughts into thoughts into thoughts. So the seer remaining relatively unchanged, the seeing are changing. Three observations. Seer and the seen are different. The seer is one, the seen are many. The seer is unchanging, seen are changing. Step 3. Go deeper. Yet deeper. Now the magic begins. So far it's been common sense. Are you with me so far? Are we on firm ground? Alright. It's like climbing up the stairs. You put your feet firmly on one step before you move up to the next one. So now we go deeper. The mind itself. Look, here is the world. Here are the eyes. Somewhere inside diffuses the mind. The mind itself becomes the object which we try to see. The mind becomes the seeing. In Sanskrit, Drishya Dhrivittaya Sakshi. The mind itself becomes the seeing. And it is true that we experience the mind. Who does not experience the mind? Thoughts, emotions, happy, sad, pleased, irritated, want this, don't want that, like this, dislike that. I understand, I do not understand, I remember, can't remember, it's on the tip of my tongue. All of these things are the mind. And who does not experience it? We experience it. We experience our minds directly. If you experience your mind, then your mind is the scene, something that you experience, an object of experience. And there's an object of experience, a scene, there must be a seer. And you remember, the seer and the scene must be different. So there is a seer of the mind which is not the mind. That which shines upon the mind and reveals the mind to you. So first point is that the seer of the mind, let's just call it the witness. The Sanskrit is Sakshi, which means witness. There is a witness within you which shines upon the mind. I'm using shine a light metaphor because inside you can see it's revealed. You will look inside, you will see your thoughts are there, emotions are there, feelings are there. What shines upon the mind? Let's call it the witness, the real you. You are the one which shines upon the mind. And that witness must be different from the mind. Here is something. See, so far it was common sense. Eyes are different from that yoga mat. We know, it's clear. The eyes are different from the mind. The mind is something psychological. Eyes are physiological. Clearly different. But I, the witness, am different from the mind. Here you are beginning to, if you are careful, you will catch me here. Wait a minute. This is where it begins to be new. This is where Vedanta actually starts. Undeniably, the mind is experienced. So there must be an experiencer of the mind. You must be the experiencer. There's a psychologist here in New York, Greg Good. He is very interested in Vedanta. So he teaches, he puts a lot of Vedanta in his teachings. He suggests a simple experiment. He says that have a thought in your mind, like just think 2 + 2 is 4. Just a thought. Now, consider the feeling of that experience of thinking 2 + 2 is 4. Are you aware of 2 plus 2, 4, or is 2 plus 2, 4 aware of you? That's a weird question. Nobody asked you in that sense that way earlier. Think about it. Are you not aware of your thoughts? Are your thoughts aware of you, or are you aware of your thoughts? Think about, just experience it. 2 plus 2, 4. Clearly it was a thought which you were aware of. So there is something within you which shines upon your thoughts, which is different from your thoughts. Not only is it different from your thoughts, not only are you different from your thoughts, that witness you different from your thoughts, but you are one, your thoughts are many. Throughout the day, you have thousands of thoughts, feelings, emotions, memories, desires, ideas. All of these things come and go, they flit back and forth in the light of that witness. So the seen are many and the seer is one. And third, the same observation still holds good. That consciousness, that witness within you is unchanging. What changes are the thoughts, are the emotions. What changes is the mind. Throughout our days and nights and months and years of our life, is the mind which changes. What Vedanta points out is that there is an unchanging witness which shines in the mind. That does not change. 3 points. The witness, which is the real you, which is what Vedanta is trying to point out to you, and we shall see an exercise to try to appreciate that. That witness is different from your mind. You are not your mind. Second, you are one. Your mind is full of thousands of different thoughts. You are unchanging. Mind is continuously changing. And the body is changing, and the world is changing too. But you are that unchanging light, that witness consciousness. There's a nice story which the Swamis, the monks in the Himalayas tell about this, that you are different from your mind. You see, here itself you can begin to apply Vedanta and it helps. A man went from Delhi to the Himalayas. Here you would go to the therapist, but the monks in India have played more or less the same role as the therapists here. So he goes to a monk, and the higher you go, the wiser the monk is supposed to be. Not true. I've stayed in the Himalayas in a little hut about 10,000 feet in Gangotri, where the source of the river Ganga, the Ganges river, where it comes from. And there are monks who, even now there are monks who stay in caves and in little huts there. And there's a place even higher, at 14,000 feet above the glacier, where there are some monks who stay there. So I thought maybe I could go and stay there, and asked a monk who had stayed there. And he said, don't go. You can barely keep body and soul together there, let alone meditate and do your spiritual practices. It's just useless. You stay here. So higher you go, you're not necessarily wiser, you're colder basically. Yeah, because there the hut I stayed in, I remember there's no electricity, so there's no furniture, there's no question of anything to warm you. I mean, if it's 30 or 40 outside, it's 30 and 40 inside the room, and your blankets are also 30 degrees. So you have to warm it up with your own body heat. So this monk tells this person who's come, what do you want? And this person says, in Hindi, it says, I'm miserable. I'm unhappy. I'm miserable. Help me. And the monk says to him, now you can also understand the technique he's applying. He says, are you aware of your misery? Do you feel your misery? Do you feel your unhappiness? And this man says, of course. That's why I'm here. I am unhappy. I feel unhappy. That's why I've come to you. If I didn't feel it, why would I say I'm unhappy? And then the monk says, if you feel your misery, if you experience your misery, then you are the experiencer of the misery, and the misery is the experienced. The seer and the seen cannot be the same. You are not miserable. You are the knower of the misery in your mind. You must be apart from that misery in order to experience it. As much as I must be something different from this cloth in order to experience this cloth. And this man thinks, this monk tells him, think about it, meditate upon this and come back tomorrow. This man meditates upon it and thinks hard about it. And actually if you do that, you will actually feel immediately a space between you and your mind. The anger in your mind is an anger in your mind. You are not angry. The one which saw the peaceful mind is the same one which is seeing the angry mind. Is the same one which will again see the peaceful mind. That one is not angry. That one is not miserable. That one is not upset. Now this person feels it and he comes back to the monk and says, you are right. I am not the misery in the mind. The misery in the mind is the seen. I am the seer of that. I am so peaceful now. Here's the real point of the story. The monk immediately scolds him and says, no, you are not peaceful. You are the seer of the peace in your mind. You see, what happens is, that's the trap we fall into. The moment the mind calms down a little, oh, I'm so quiet, so calm. It's the mind which is happy, quiet and calm. The one which witnesses that calm mind is also the one which witnessed that upset mind. It's one which witnessed the miserable mind. That one is not affected by the movements of the mind, the ups and downs of the mind, the misery and the happiness of the mind, the anger and the peace of the mind. That one is not peaceful. In fact, the word they use in Vedanta is Shantam, which means peace itself. That one which you are, that witness self, is peace itself. It does not get agitated or disturbed by the movements of the mind. You are not peaceful. You are the witness of the peace of the mind. You are the witness of the peaceful mind. Then only you can be safe from the mind. Otherwise, what would happen to that man is the moment he comes down from the mountains and goes to Delhi, maybe with the beautiful air. I don't know if you've heard about it. And gets stuck in the traffic, infamous traffic in Delhi, and he'll get upset and he'll think, oh, I was so happy, so peaceful in the Himalayas, now I've become upset again. It's because you're again identified with the mind. There was a funny story recently, some kind of tension between India and China, and somebody threatened, some press somewhere, the Chinese army threatened that, we can be in Delhi in 24 hours. And somebody again replied from the Indian press, no, you can't, because Delhi is heavily defended on all sides by traffic. Nobody can get to Delhi in 24 hours. So anyway, it gets upset because again I'm connected to the mind. If only you know that you are not the mind goes on functioning. But you're not the mind, you're not the body. This is the central teaching of Vedanta, that you are something much bigger, much vaster than the mind and body you identify yourself with. You see, normally we think of ourselves as bodies with consciousness. What Vedanta wants you to do is to reverse that. You are a consciousness with a body, experiencing a body, operating a body, embodying. You're not a body with consciousness. You're a consciousness with a body. It makes a huge difference when you make this change, this reversal. The Wall Street Journal article I referred to about Vivekananda on the International Day of Yoga a few years ago. The journalist was very humorous. She wrote, yoga, which is so popular across the West, in the United States especially in New York, every other corner has a yoga studio. People who flock to the yoga studio would be shocked to know what Vivekananda taught. He taught you are not the body. And they would be further shocked to know that he further went on to say you are not the mind either. There is the body and needs to be taken care of. There is the mind, it needs to be taken care of and managed, but you are not either of them. You are that witness self, that consciousness, apart from the thoughts in the mind, apart from the body, not physically apart, it's supposed to be all pervading, but operating through the mind and body, unchanging, whereas the body keeps changing, the mind keeps changing. One, whereas the thoughts are many, the body is a composite of many things. Now immediately the question will be, oh, that sounds cool. Can I experience it? Like I experience the body clearly. Okay, it's here. I can experience the mind too. All right, here I experience the mind. Can I experience this witness self you're talking about? We come to the last part of the verse. Remember, this is just the opening theme. This is the first verse in that little book. The last part of the verse says, Drigeva natu drishyate. Sorry, bad news. You cannot experience that witness self. But hold on. In fact, Vivekananda himself said, the real self which Vedanta speaks about is not something to be known. But before you get up and you said, why did you invite me there in a perfectly nice afternoon in Manhattan if you can't experience that witness self? It's more than experienceable. It's not an object to be experienced. It's the one which experiences. The verse says, Drigeva natu drishyate. The witness self, the witness, is never an object to be experienced. It is that which experiences all objects. A good way of understanding this is, take the example of the eyes themselves. If you ask, if you cannot experience it, however, how do I know it's even there? That this witness, this pure consciousness, unchanging awareness you speak of, how do I even know it's there? One example is the eyes themselves. Suppose I say that, did you went to Bendable Body, was the Swami there? Say, yeah, he was there. If somebody asks you, how do you know? You'll say, I saw him. So the proof of the fact that the Swami was there, you saw the Swami, right? You saw the Swami, that's the proof. And there are these other people there. I don't know, let me look at the register, maybe they signed the names or something. Yeah, those people, they're there. Because they signed out. And somebody asks you, were you there? Will you say that, yeah, I was there, I saw myself, so I must have been there? No. Your own existence here does not depend upon you seeing yourself. And let me put it in an even more simple way. Everything here, if I ask you, is there a water container there? You'll say, yeah, I can see it. Is there a Swami sitting in front of you? Yeah, I can see it. Everything that you can see here, you can say that, yes, it's there, I see it. Now, if I ask you, do you have eyes? Are your eyes there? You'll say yes. Will you say, yes, they are here because I can see them? No, you can't see them. And yet you're sure the eyes are there. Every object is there because you see it. The eyes testify to their presence. But how do you know that your eyes themselves are there? How do you know the eyes themselves are there? By seeing what will you say that I've got eyes? By seeing this cloth, you say the Swami is wearing this orange cloth. By seeing what will you say that I have got eyes, that you've got eyes? Tell me. Sounds like a riddle. By seeing any object, correct. Sometimes people say that by seeing the eyes, I have to look at the mirror. No, you don't. You have to look at anything. If you see it, then you've got eyes. Perfectly good eyes which are working. See anything? Seeing anything proves two things to you. One thing which is obvious, the object, whatever you see. Second thing which we miss are the eyes themselves, that you have working eyes which are revealing that object to you. Now, the point of this example is, this witness consciousness is exactly like that. If you say, what is the proof that there is this witness consciousness, that I am this pure consciousness? The fact that you experience anything at all, that you see things, that you touch or smell or taste, that you can think, that you feel angry, that you feel peaceful, that you can understand something, that you cannot understand something, that you recall something, that we cannot recall something sometimes. All of these are experiences, and they are all made possible by that one unchanging light within us, which is our own self, which we really are. So that's the proof of the existence of that witness consciousness. Okay, this is the teaching of that one verse which takes you from the physical world to the mental world inside, back to the witness consciousness. You see, physical world, the forms of the world. Eyes are the seer, the world is separate from the eyes. Eyes are the seen, the mind is the seer. Subtle world within, the thoughts, ideas. Further back, That consciousness is the seer within quotes, and the mind is the seen. Ultimately, that consciousness alone is the seer, the experiencer of everything in your life. Imagine this. If your eyes are here, you can see this room. Suppose you shut your eyes. Then you cannot see the room, but are you gone? No, you're still there, right? You're still there. You are a person who was not seeing anything anymore. That's all. That's your experience. But imagine that witness consciousness. Suppose it's not there. Then what will happen? If we have correctly grasped the concept, you'll see it's just blankness. There won't be any experience at all. All experience depends on this consciousness. This consciousness plus the mind, you can think. This consciousness plus the intellect, you can understand. This consciousness plus the memory, you can recall things. This consciousness plus mind plus eyes, you can see things. Consciousness plus mind plus ears, you can hear things. That consciousness is the essential, the core of our being. Towards the end of that text, the text which I'm referring to, it gives exercises. I'll just tell you about the exercise and stop, because it's more important to ask you questions, or you can talk about it. It gives you 6 meditative exercises to intuit this witness consciousness and to stabilize in it. So one of the techniques is this. Take up any object. Take up any object. So yes, the water bottle, the green water bottle, and you put it in front of you and you look at it, and then step by step go back. That it's an object, I am the seer of that object. Object is the seen, the eyes are the seer. When you close your eyes, the eyes are seen, the mind is experiencing that the eyes are closed, that is experienced by the mind. That's the mind. I am the witness of the mind. Step back from there. You do not try to catch hold of the witness. You cannot. Just acknowledge, since the mind is appearing, mind is experienced, I am the experiencer of the mind. I am the witness self. At that point, you're supposed to use a text, a Vedantic text, which what you have discovered, the text tells you. I am the self-effulgent, unchanging consciousness. And that self-effulgent, unchanging consciousness, existence itself, consciousness itself, bliss itself, that I am. That should refer, not as a chant, but as something, it should be as clear as, here is the cloth. The word refers to an object here. Similarly, I am that unchanging, self-luminous witness consciousness. Repeat that in the mind, but it should point to something quite real within you. I am the witness. Clearly, I am the witness. I am unchanging. I am consciousness itself. Why consciousness itself? Because you are aware. Whatever you are, you must be aware. As you hold on to that, the mind quietens down. That text also should be dropped. Technique is drop the object, that means the thoughts in the mind, drop the text also, that I am the witness consciousness, that also stop doing it and remain as the witness consciousness. Would you like to try it now? You're already trying it, but look at my hand and use the hand to become aware that your eyes are watching the hand. Close your eyes, go deeper, become aware that the mind noticed the closing of the eyes. That's the mind, which is hearing this, understanding this. That's the mind. That is clearly revealed to you. That which it is, to which it is revealed, that is the witness consciousness which I am. I am consciousness. I am the shining witness. I am unchanging, eternal. I rest in my own peace nature. The world changes, the body changes from childhood to youth, to middle age to old age. The mind changes. From morning to evening, how many times it has become irritated, it's become happy, become curious, dull, sleepy, alert. Mind changes continuously. All of this is revealed to me in my own light. I am that unchanging light within. That light is serene. That light has no problems. When you feel comfortable, you can open your eyes. Are there any questions, comments, observations?
It's a part that I don't understand.
Yes.
Maybe it's an observation. The mind or the unchanging absolute self is essentially a witness.
Yes.
Consciousness is separate from that, and we witness that. But I feel that my essence is to have free will and to be an actor, as opposed to just purely a seer. So where is the decision making? I don't just age and things happen that I witness, but I actually make things happen.
Right.
So where does that either happen as a duality? Does that just happen at the consciousness level and I witness that? Something much more fundamental witnesses that? But where's the free will? Where does free will reside?
I understand. First of all, in Vedanta, we identify the self, the witness self, with consciousness. The mind is something different from consciousness. Consciousness, I'm using consciousness, the word, as a free translation of the Sanskrit word chaitanya or chit, which means awareness, like a light shining forth. The light doesn't do anything, it just reveals what is. Now, when it reveals, the first thing that is revealed to you is a mind, thoughts, ideas. That's where decisions are taken. That's where feelings arise. That's where likes and dislikes are. That's where rational thinking takes place. All of this we can be aware. We can be aware of our minds working, churning away, trying to come to a decision, getting to a decision. So this getting to a decision, in fact, in Vedanta, these activities are very clearly classified. So decision making, for example, is said to be a function of the intellect, in Sanskrit, buddhi. A mind presents a variety of thoughts and options. Emotions. There is something called smriti, which means memory, which you recall all that is like a hard disk stored here. All of these are functions in the subtle sphere, in the mind. I'm using mind as a catch-all phrase for all of this. Literally, if you see the Sanskrit word for it, antakarana, which means inner instrument. So this body is an external instrument. Inside you have a subtle inner instrument, like a software in a computer. But you are not that also. And the proof of that is, your essential nature was free will and decision making, you would always be having free will and decision making. And yet there are times when you're not exercising that. There are times when you are in a reverie, or you are sleepy, or you have fallen asleep, or you are in a dream. You're completely in a dream, a lot of things are happening, but really when you wake up from it, it's not that you're making any decisions, it's just mind playing back like a movie. Then deep sleep comes, where everything shuts down. And according to Vedanta, for example, in deep sleep, are you there in deep sleep or not? Our first reaction might be to say, no, I'm not there in deep sleep. But then that leads to a paradox. Who slept if you did not sleep? According to Vedanta, deep sleep is not an absence of experience. It's an experience of absence. It's just like you open your eyes and see this world, and close your eyes and see blankness. But the seeing blankness is also a kind of seeing. Deep sleep is like that. So you see, what continues throughout all our experiences is awareness. Free will, for example. According to Vedanta, free will is in the mind, in the intellect. So that feeling of free will. So you are exercising free will. If you're living in a police state in, say, Eastern Europe or somewhere, you feel that your free will has been curtailed. All of these experiences are illuminated by the witness consciousness. It's not that you're just a witness. You are a witness, and you deploy all of these things. Just think of all of these faculties like memory and free will and intellect and emotions. All of them, just think of them like apps on your smartphone. All of these things are resources available to you through your consciousness to do things with them, right? Does that make sense? Yes.
Some of the Buddhist readings I've done, they talk a lot about ego. Is that similar to the witness that you're talking about?
No. Here's the difference. If you read Buddhism and Vedanta, the first thing you come across seems to be an enormous contradiction, because the Buddha said that there's no self. No permanent inner self is there. What we consider to be a person is just an illusion. It's a continuous stream of thoughts, feelings, emotions. If you analyze it, there's no particular self to be found. The ego is not a permanent entity. If you look deeper, so it seems to be contradictory to the Vedanta position, because Vedanta seems to say that there is an eternal self within. But if you look deeper, what the Buddha denied is also what Vedanta denies. It does not say that eternal self within is an object. The ego is an object. You can right now feel it. You say to yourself, you have a feeling of your own isness, of your own existence. And yet the one which feels that's the real you, not the person which is felt. Vedanta keeps on saying that you are not this person. After all, the person disappears when you go to sleep. The person has been continuously changing. It's a work in progress. From your babyhood to your teenage years, to your youth, to now, and further ahead. The person is changing. Which person are you in this stream? Are you a collection of all of them? Vedanta would say that you are the pure subject, that consciousness, which experiences a person in terms of body-mind.
What about a person who experiences multiple personalities?
You could still explain that. It's the same consciousness getting identified with a particular mental makeup, which is the person here or the person there. If that mental makeup is fractured somehow into multiple personalities, the same consciousness would get identified with this or that or the other one, and would feel like a house at war with itself. In Vedanta, one thing to do is to note that they're talking about fact, something available right here, not something to be believed in, not even something to be experienced much later. It's something available right here. Let me ask you this. We went from the world seen by the eyes, then the eyes experienced by the mind, and the mind shining in the light of the pure consciousness. Now, if I say, the world out here, is it a fact or is it philosophy? It's a fact. Take it in a naive way. Yeah, it's a fact. I experience it. The body, the eyes and the body, are they facts right now or is it theory? It's a fact. You experience it right now. Go deeper. The mind, thoughts, emotions, ideas, are they facts? Are they experiences or are they theories? I feel happy. It's a fact. That's your direct inner experience, isn't it? Now the witness consciousness which shines upon the mind, is it a fact or is it theory or philosophy? At this point, most people would say, oh, that's something that I have to experience, I have to understand. Vedanta insists it's as much a fact as this thing. When? Right now. This process should, if you carefully attend to it, word, eyes, mind, and me shining. Me means not the person, the impersonal consciousness shining upon the mind. It should be evident right now. Yes.
So how are our witnesses connected to each other? I'm guessing
It's a very good question. We'll explore that in coming classes. But Vedanta says, ask this question, exactly the question you asked. You'll be glad to know this is something that in the Bhagavad Gita, which is one of the texts of Vedanta, Krishna takes up in the 13th chapter. How many witnesses are there? So there are a dozen people here, 15 people. Are there 15 witnesses? Are there 10 million witnesses out there in New York? Are there 7 billion witnesses in the world today? Or if you include the animals and everything, trillions of witnesses? Or is there one? And Vedanta has a startling conclusion, there is one witness. We are actually, all of us, one immortal consciousness. It makes you feel good. This being one, being united, it's not a slogan. Brotherhood or sisterhood, it's not a slogan. That we are all one. Vedanta takes it very seriously. In fact, the fundamental teaching of Vedanta is that one existence within ourselves, which shines forth. You see, what makes us different? Clearly our bodies are different. You can count. Clearly our minds are different. The knowledge that you have, I don't have. The memories that she has, I don't have. Our minds are different. But if I'm not the body, if I'm not the mind, if I'm the light shining on this mind, what to differentiate the light shining on this mind from the light shining on that mind? In fact, the question Vedanta would ask is, why do you think we are different? Not why do you think we are one? We are different in terms of body, personalities, minds, but we are one as far as that inner self is there. Literally one existence. Not only all human beings, all animals too, all sentient beings where consciousness is manifest. We are all one being right now. And not only that, the most profound question, not only that, it also touches upon the question of God. That is the God that Vedanta worships. That one consciousness, unbroken consciousness within all beings. It's not a God of faith. One person asked a monk in the Himalayas, give me an irrefutable proof of the existence of God. And the answer was your existence. That only makes sense in this Vedantic framework. Because our existence, that witness consciousness, if it is one unbroken witness consciousness in all beings, an immortal consciousness, bodies die, minds change. That consciousness is unchanging. That is what is going on in Vedanta. Very good question. Somebody else had a question. I want to go into stretching.
I don't know. It's kind of a hard thing to. Any more questions?
In fact, I'll make one more observation here. We have run out of time.
No, if you do need to go, though, certainly, yeah. But we're not out of time.
Yeah. It's this. You know, in the world of religion, there are two kinds of religions you'll notice. One are the theistic religions, which believe in some kind of God. Judaism, Christianity, Islam, and many varieties of Hinduism. In Hinduism, God is understood in different ways, but there is a God. Vishnu or Shiva or Divine Mother. In Hinduism, God can be male or female. And there is a form of God worship which is both male and female. It's called Ardhanarishwara. Or beyond gender, with form, without form. So all these are religions which believe in a God. But there are religions which do not believe in God. Buddhism. They don't talk about God. There are other religions in India, for example, Jainism, which is not so well known outside India. They are probably the most peaceful religion on earth. The fundamental practice is peace and non-violence. The Jain monks wear filters, masks over their mouth so that they don't kill bugs. And they walk with a peacock feather fan so that they can gently sweep aside ants when they walk on the path. So they are that non-violent. I think Sam Harris, he said in a talk that it's only for the Jains, the more fanatic they are, the less you have to fear them. They're going to get more and more non-violent. But anyway, they don't believe in the existence of a separate God. Now, how do you make sense of them? From the theistic religions, if you look at Buddhism, it seems to be atheistic. How can you have a religion without God? And from the Buddhist perspective, when you look at the theistic religions, their question would be, what superstition? What God? Prove this God. Where is this God of yours? There's no proof. It's just a belief. From the Vedantic perspective, both make sense. That thou art. That's the summation of all Vedantic teaching. The that there refers to God, the thou there refers to you, and what it means is that pure consciousness, witness consciousness within you is also the God of religion. It's one and the same thing. When you put it, you make a difference between yourself and that ultimate reality and you worship it as a God, it becomes a theistic religion. When you look within and inquire within and try to find out the reality within, that becomes a Buddhistic kind of religion. But in both cases, you reach the same result. That's just observation out there. Well, thank you very much. We'll end with a peace chant. Yes?
Well, Swami, just the practice of the object, the eyes, the mind, the pure consciousness, it just seems like a really valuable meditation.
It is.
Can you give some advice on how to apply that, just like on a daily basis? What's effective? What's doable in a normal lifestyle?
Absolutely. You see, the difference between this meditation and what we call the Patanjali Yoga meditation. Patanjali Yoga meditation demands exclusive time. It's very powerful, but it demands exclusive time. You have to sit in an asana, you have to block out the world and turn inwards and meditate for hours and hours, morning and evening. It demands a lot of time. This one is very different. It can take up any kind of experience you have in the world because that witness self is always there and should be in principle always discoverable. So every experience you have in the world is potentially a time for meditation. Especially it's useful when you are in trouble. Yes, when you are upset, really, it works. And it works like magic. If you try it a little bit beforehand and you get the hang of it, like riding a bike, then you can navigate a crowded street like that outside also very fast. All that you need to do is, first of all, not Vedanta, but the preliminary entry into Vedanta is, remember, stop. Stop, S stands for stop, T stands for take a breath, O stands for orient yourself, that I'm going to do the Vedantic meditation now. So, O is this Vedantic meditation where whatever was bothering me is an object, is the scene. It might be a person. It might be something in my body, a health problem. It might be something somebody said, which has come into my mind. It's a thought, a feeling of guilt, a feeling of humiliation, a feeling of rejection, or whatever hurts, irritates. It's a thought. It's not you. Remember, millions of thoughts like that have come and gone in the last 20, 30, 40 years of your life. It will go away, to be never remembered again. In instants, you distance yourself, open up a space between you and the thought. I am the witness of this thought. I'm the witness of its non-existence. I'm the witness of its arising. I'm the witness of its being, shining in my light. I will be the witness of its disappearance. I am that unchanging witness consciousness. Repeat it to yourself. Use that very annoying thought, that thought itself. Don't try to push it out. Use it for spiritual practice. They'll become your best friends. Because when you're hurting, when you're irritated, there's a motivation to come out of that pain. At other times, When you're okay, you don't really feel like that you need some kind of spiritual practice or protection. But when you are in trouble, when you are unhappy, you have the motivation to come out of it. So you use that unhappiness, use that pain. You can use it for physical pain also. The more better you get at it, incredible things. There are stories, Swami Sarvapriyananda and others, of people having operations performed without anesthesia. Don't try it right now. Not after one class. You're asking for trouble. Yes, use that. The technique is very simple. Whatever bothers you, the thought or the sensation, use it to turn inward. The whole trick is to turn inward. You see, our whole problem is, in normal life, day-to-day life, we are flowing outwards. We see outside, hear things outside, taste, smell, touch, and think about things outside, people outside, events outside. Even the body is outside. Even the mind is outside. And our whole life is in this. So that requires, the only way I can put it is, you're moving like this, you need to turn like this. It can't be expressed in language, but you get a feeling of it. Do you understand what I'm talking about? You can understand it. You can't express it in language. Language is really not meant to deal with this. Language is meant to deal with the objective world. Try it. It works. There are other ways, which we will talk about come next time. We can take it up. This is just a taste of what's there. It's a vast field. You can imagine, thousands of years people have been working away at this. Should I end with a peace chant? Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Shri Ram Krishna. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
I'm afraid thank you. I'm afraid I've intruded upon your stretching
No.
time.
As everybody knows, the theme of this was certainly to hear you, and that was remarkable.
Yes. And our brains were stretched.
Right?
Yes.
So simple, right? Yeah, I actually have one question, something that we experience regularly doing this work, and those of you that have worked privately with us. How you would think about this from the standpoint of consciousness? We find that people get better faster and heal quicker when they apply awareness.
Absolutely.
Now, would you call that the awareness in the mind or the consciousness?
Whichever it is better the more you step back from the body into the mind. Remember, stepping back from the body into the mind is not living in your head. It's living in awareness. In fact, it's more being more present, not being more intellectual and lost in your thoughts. One reason why Vedanta often doesn't work is, if you leave it at the level of the head, of the intellect, when you feel, oh, I learned a nice philosophy today, I heard an ancient Indian philosophy today, it will not work for you then. The mind quickly takes it up and compartmentalizes it, puts it there. Rather, if you use a kind of, say, a Buddhistic mindfulness exercise, instead of thinking, if you feel the presence, here and now, you have already taken a step into awareness. And any kind of activity that you do, stretching, eating, walking, working, in that awareness will definitely be enhanced.
Yeah, I mean, we honestly see that the parts of the body that are the most injured have the most lack of consciousness. Both the person that's working and they're not conscious, and we, the practitioners, become unconscious. And so just bringing consciousness to it, the change happens quicker. So
One book I would recommend is, it's not a Vedanta book, but a very useful thing for Vedanta and for the practice here. You heard The Miracle of Mindfulness, Thich Nhat Hanh? It's a classic. It's worth reading. He's a Buddhist monk, but it's practical and it's immediate. Right now, right here, immediately you see the benefits.
Yeah, we often joke, you just want to take a pill and then everything goes away, but it doesn't, in fact.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't, in fact. And we see that, so maybe I can use that consciousness
See-
argument to convince people to pay attention.
You see, in principle, a pill is an object, but consciousness is closer to your own reality. The thing which you use, which is closer to yourself, the more powerful it is.
Mhm.
And the more control you have over it. A pill might stop working.
So what does everybody think? Should we end here, or do you want to do a few? I mean, it's a little. I mean, it's kind of an interesting environment to go into stretching in. I don't know. I really take a vote. Do people need to leave? Yeah, I think it's time. That's okay. This was about this. So please come again. Thank you so much. Come again.